Yo, what's going on, gamers? And today I have another special piece for you. This time it's actually a little bit special. It is my Halloween kind of theme piece of Nazuna from Call of the Night. I've been really enjoying drawing her lately. I don't know why, I just kind of find it fun. So if you enjoy her, then you're gonna like my content. But this one is a little bit more special than most of my other videos because I actually take a lot more time and I add a lot more detail than I'm usually used to. I'm usually used to, if you've been around for a little bit, is I usually bang out a piece once a day. Maybe two if I'm feeling frisky, but on the second day, I'll usually spend an hour at most just going over the final details. But with this one, I decided I need to start trying a little bit harder and adding more detail, and the way to do that is to take my time. So if you want a little bit of an example, on average I usually spend about, let's say, at most 6 hours on a piece, maximum 6 hours. This one was about 10 and a half, and that's only what I recorded. I forget a lot of times to record, so I'm probably nearing the 12 plus range. Not to say that more hours makes things impressive, but at some point, doing this for giving those extra hours really helped improve my quality. And as you can see, what I'm starting to do now, instead of just kind of doing the box method, I'm trying to make a somewhat correct rib cage with a pelvis. I'm doing circles for the shoulders now instead of just kind of bringing them out. I'm trying to figure out where everything is. I'm trying to properly place things so that it looks more correct. And because I'm doing this is taking, just this part alone took me about an hour to kind of get everything to where I liked it at the end. Again, these poses aren't incredibly dynamic, but I've only been doing pixel art for, this is almost my 6th month now. So going from literally never doing art ever to doing full body stuff is a challenge. And you can see I've done full body stuff in the past, but it's super incorrect. So I'm just taking my time and adding more detail. Another thing I'm trying to focus on while I'm adding this detail and kind of getting all the guides exactly where I like it is my shading. I'm figuring out where that light source is coming from, and I'm trying to add things to make things look correct. I'm trying to add lighting where it needs to be and darkness where it needs to be. And to do that, I'm just being super simple. As you can see, as I go through, I'm not trying to get it right the first time. I used to try to do that, and then it just looked like a mess because I have lighting coming from every which way. It looks a little bit strange because I added lighting on the left side, but then really it's coming from the top right, and then I keep it there and it looks awful. I get distracted. So what I'm doing now is it's coming from the top left, so I just do a simple shading over my guide, my figure, whatever you want to call it, just to see where are the main spots the darkness is going to hit and where the main spots the light's going to hit. That's all I'm doing. I'll add the more final details much later. I'll work slowly at it. I still do a little bit of irregular shading where I don't really have a specific time spot where I do that shading. I'll kind of draw and do it as I go, but I'm a lot more conscious of it. I'd like to eventually have kind of the guide into my line work, into a model with the basic shading, with the hair and basic clothing. And then I move on to the second stage of finer detail, final shading, and then the third stage of the overall, like the super dark tones, super light tones, everything else. That's the goal. Don't know exactly when or how I'm going to be able to achieve this, but I'm going to try my best. But my process is getting a lot better. I think my detail overall has gotten super great. Like I said before, I've only been doing this for 6 months, and I've gone from just horrendous, awful drawings to something I can be proud of. I really enjoyed this piece. It's probably maybe my favorite piece, just because everything looks a lot more correct than usual. Of course, it's not perfect, and There's a lot I could probably improve on it, as well as my shading's not amazing, of course, in my anatomies. But I'll get better with time. I've seriously gotten a whole lot better. I'm just trying to right now just focus on adding more quality to my work and making things more correct, and it'll come with time. I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, I decided to do a sort of Halloween theme. I was just walking one day and I was just like, what? It'd be really cool. So I just did it. It just kind of came to me. So this goes through a lot of different phases. You'll see my process is a little bit chaotic sometimes. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do sometimes. Like, I'll have a lot of references on the side and I'll have somewhat an idea what I want to do, but sometimes things happen in my brain as I'm going, and I want to do something else. This was going to be originally just like a black witch kind of thing with a one-piece dress and maybe like her holding the wand, but you'll see later, drawing hands is really hard. I'm very new to anatomy, and it actually takes me quite a long time to get the hands somewhat where I like it. Honestly, I'm still a little bit disappointed how the hands turned out, but that frustration will only just make me a little bit more stronger, and next time I'll do a better job. I also want to kind of get better at shading. I find that I don't know really what to do in the mid stomach section and like the lower breast section of the chest, lower chest section. Like, I'm usually a little bit lost when it comes to that. I don't know how I really want my folds to go and how to make it look more believable. I think I'm gonna sit down and really look at some more pieces of art that I like, some more pixel artists that I like, and see how they kind of handle it. And I'll try to mimic what they do. That's usually how I get a lot better, by the way, is whenever I don't know how to do something, I'll go check out some artists I really like Birdman is one. I love their work on Twitter. Amazing pixel artist. That's who I looked at for a long time to kind of figure out how to do my earlier pixel art. They taught me kind of how to do hair, how to kind of structure the body and make things look a lot more like cute. Like, they do a lot more cutie kind of things. So I followed them for a long time. Right now, one of my favorite artists right now is someone called Cadet on Twitter. I copy a lot of their pieces. I take a lot of their stuff and break it down because I really like how they do all their pixel art. Like, some of the stuff is like, you can call it simple, but it looks simple but like amazing at the same time. That's the kind of stuff I want to be able to do. Like, some of their stuff is like just raw, just looks amazing. Like, doesn't have like a crazy amount of detail, but what it shows is all correct and looks amazing. Some of their stuff is like crazy detail too, so don't think I'm knocking them in any way. I only look up to this kind of person. Like, they're amazing at what they do. There is one more. Zeffy on Twitter. Like, they do a lot of Nazuna stuff, like the character I'm drawing right now, and I love how they make them look. And so I also copy a lot of their stuff. Like, I take a look at how they kind of make the body, and I use that a lot as references. So if you're curious on how I've improved so fast over these last 6 months, that's really it. Is I look at Twitter and artists that I really enjoy and look at pieces and I break them down. And what I do is, like, I'll take the piece and I'll kind of draw over it on like paint or whatever, just like the basic shapes of how they're doing things. Like, I'll break down the body into like the circle for the head with like the jawline where I think the kind of jawline is. Then I'll add a center line where I think it's kind of going. And then from there, I'll draw like a box, just a simple box shape for the chest. And then a underwear shape for where I think the pelvis area is. And then I'll connect it with the stomach. That's what I'll sort of do with that. And then after I kind of get the whole thing kind of figured out, I'll also check. It's really important to see how tall they're making these drawings. Sometimes with characters, they're different sizes, obviously, and how you can easily figure out what size they are is just measure the head length of that character. So for this one, for instance, this character is about 6.25, 6.5 head lengths long or tall. That's what I use. And every character is different in height size, but I'll go and break down certain artists, like what size they're using, because it's really important to know what the measurements are of their character that they're trying to portray. So then you, if you're trying to go over it, you'll know exactly how tall that character is, and after that you can kind of break everything else down. But after that, I like to check how they shade stuff. So it's a little bit tricky because there's not a whole lot, like pixel art you can shade in so many different ways. It's a little bit daunting because you can do dithering, you can do simple shading, you can do complex shading, you can add dithering in or out in certain areas. Like there's a lot of ways you can kind of go about it depending on how many shades of color you have, and everyone kind of does it differently, so it's kind of hard to kind of pick what style you kind of like. But generally I try to see how do they shade this fold. A lot of the folds that I do now, especially, like, I'm really proud of how I can make a 3D effect for like dresses now, like the bottom part, because I've looked at so many artists and you kind of see, especially pixel artists, it's really important to look at pixel artists when you look at shading, because although a lot of art is similar, it's really hard to do shading the same way as someone doing just raw digital art, unless you're with a giant canvas size. I'm only doing about like 200 by 400, give or take. Sometimes less, sometimes more. But if you really want to get that kind of shading down, you may want a little bit larger size. But not to say that you couldn't do it with the size that I'm doing. You definitely could. I just not as good. But yeah, that's generally my process. And that's usually how I learn a lot faster, is when I get frustrated with something, I'll go and check out and really break down how an artist does something, and it really helps me every time. I improve tremendously by doing this. And after this video, I'm gonna go, there's another artist that I just saw. I have no clue what their name is, I'm sorry. But I'm gonna take one of their drawings that they had, and I'm probably gonna break it down, and because they had a really good understanding of anatomy. I really like how they did it, so I want to, especially like the chest area, I struggle a lot with the chest area, and it was perfect. So I'm gonna take some time, break that down, and just kind of understand how they're doing, where everything's being placed, and hopefully I improve a lot from that. And also I really enjoy their shading. But anyways, I've yapped for way too long. Thank you so much for watching. Please go check out my Twitter at CivilZesty. It's in the description down below if you want to check that out. Please like and maybe subscribe if you enjoy my content. I try to upload a video every once in a while. I used to do it daily, but with how much detail I'm doing now with art, it's gonna be every few days, and I don't like to yap all the time. I usually upload shorts because they're a lot simpler, easier to do. And I don't have to yap for like 20 minutes. But if you want to check any of that out, just like, maybe subscribe, and check me out, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll check back with you next time. Peace.